And in terms of, so we've been covering all of the general debates, and we've been trying to note, what are they talking about? What are they spending time on? What are they not mentioning? What are they giving one question to and then moving on as quickly as they can? And I think I looked at an analysis that broke down the number of questions. I think they said there wasn't a single question that dealt with an issue specifically of concern to lesbians. I think they said there was one question that touched on the bisexual community. I think they said there might have been one that specifically addressed gender non-binary, the community. And then also when they asked you to not participate, it wasn't like, well, we understand your concerns, you want to represent your community, but don't worry, we're gonna have other people that represent the community. You sit in the audience and there's nobody.
No one.
And so there was a specific topic that you wanted to bring up, correct? If you had questions.
There were a few actually. So the one that they were excited about was the question that I had about TSA and about the scrutiny that trans and non-binary people experience while traveling. Then there was FOSTA SESTA and like the conflation of sex trafficking with voluntary sex work, being that we're a community that on a national average makes less than $10,000 a year. And so sex work is a means of economic stability for many trans and non-binary people. So whether we agree with it or don't agree with it, it's a very real reality that we need our candidates to be in dialogue with us about. The other question that I had was around incarcerating trans women in men's facilities. Like there's a lot of danger and violence there, not just from the inmates, but the actual corrections officers. And then on top of it, why do we have trans women in prisons in general when literally 94% of our crimes are out of survival? So it's not us who are the criminals. It is the administration and the people who continue to intentionally block our ability to economically thrive.
So Ashlee Marie, there's this pervasive irony that trans people are constantly attacked by homophobes and bigoted people, et cetera, right? And they're attacked for their choices and for who they are, and their gender, and all the things that we know. But yet at the same time, the reason they can have work as sex workers is because that is something that folks seek out all the time.
Listen, the Republican Party paid my rent for so many years, kept clothes on my back, kept food on the table, which is so interesting that literally most of these men on Capitol Hill who are legislating our lives away are actively participating in the sex work trade and who are engaged with us. And so I think it's one of those things where when we look at what these policies should look like, they should be policies that are going to be well informed and that are going to speak truth to power about what these dynamics look like. And so the biggest part of the evening, to be honest with you, that made a lot of us upset, speaking of Blossom C. Brown, was when Don Lemon had that moment in which he said to her, listen, that's why we're all here, to validate people like you.
Would you like to see that?
Sure.
Yeah, we actually have that clip.
I'm gonna say
No, come here. No, I just want to ask you something. Come here. Tell me, come here. I want you to talk. What's your name?
I'm Blossom C. Brown.
Blossom, let me ask you.
Google me.
Blossom.
Please Google me.
Blossom, thank you. Let me tell you something. Let me no, don't come on the stage. Don't come on the stage. May I have the mic?
Okay.
May I have the mic? Blossom, let me tell you something. The reason that we're here is to validate people like you. That is why we're giving, but that is why we're here. Okay. But
not one black trans woman has taken the mic tonight. Not one black trans man has taken the mic.
Yeah. Hang on, we can't hear you. Blossom, we can't hear you. Here, Blossom, we can't hear you.
Baby, your actions have to speak louder than words, because guess what? Not one black trans woman has taken the mic tonight. Not one black trans man has taken the mic tonight.
Yeah.
Show me.
Blossom.
Show me.
Blossom. Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Blossom, you're a black trans woman. You have the mic in your hand. I've taken it and given it back to you. We want to hear from you. We have had trans people of color. We've had all people here, and you're welcome. But we are proud and happy that you're here. We're proud and happy that you're here. Yes, but remember, we're on our time constraint. All right. Thank you, Blossom, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's how anti-blackness works amongst people of color. That's what anti-blackness looks like.
So can you explain?
So she had a very valid point that many of us speak to. I think there should be a separation of racism and anti-blackness. In fact, racism is a byproduct of anti-Blackness. It's the hatred of Blackness so much that anything that falls along the spectrum is deemed invalid, unworthy, or less than. And so what made it all the more upsetting, first of all, Don Lemon was speaking as if he were someone in a different orbit, on a different planet, like people like you. It's like, first of all, let me go ahead and educate you on a little bit of history. You aren't there to validate Black trans women. You're only standing where you are because Black trans women validated you. We have people like Marsha P. Johnson, Sylvia Rivera, Miss Major Griffith, like all of these pioneers who are typically those at the bottom of the totem pole. And the truth is that your fiercest warriors are gonna be those who have nothing to lose but life itself. So these struggles that we face are not new. And it has always been Black and brown femmes in the LGBTQ community who have carried the burden and the weight of movement work on their backs. And so Don Lemon is a perfect example of how we're starting to shift the conversation away from the race dynamics, which are there, but it's more about class solidarity. You feel that even though you are a Black man and you are of queer experience or however you identify, the truth is that you still don't have the same struggles that we do. And then to basically tell her to like give you the mic and listen, and you're looking down on her, and it's one of those reminders that if we don't take the opportunity and seize the moment, that moment will never come.
So I want to clarify to the audience, if you're not in this community and you haven't heard some of the language around it, you haven't heard some of the issues around it, there's so many things you're saying, Ashlee Marie, that I think resonate with everyone, and I just wanted to focus on that. So the reason why you'll have the loudest voices and the rebels, the revolutionaries, usually a lot of them come from poor middle class backgrounds, is because they, just like Ashlee Marie just said, because we don't have much to lose. So you're not going to get a multi-million-dollar anchor to be the revolutionary. They weren't hired for that role. And they're not, their heart's not into it. And I don't blame them. I get it. Like, if you're making a ton of money and you're in a position of power and privilege, it's a little weird to say, yeah, let me give all that away and let's get real change, etc. That's how they perceive it. Now, should they? I think they should, but I'm not surprised that they don't. And I'm not surprised that they don't even see it. It doesn't mean that they're necessarily bad people. It just means like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I should think about my privilege for a second. And that person that I get turned off by, why am I getting turned off by them? Well, they're speaking out of turn, but why are they speaking out of turn? Because as you were talking about, it's about class, it's about all these issues put together, because nobody ever gave us our turn.
But it's embarrassing and idiotic because basically you're playing step and fetch it, Don. They just told you, hey, come get your people. That's what they did. And so having you as a Black man standing there, you may think that you've reached, you've arrived and you're at this new level of worth and value. But at the end of the day, we are all the same. The 1%, the top people who are the decision makers, the people who are closeted racists, who control all of this, they still see you as the same. You're just a prop, just like you're trying to utilize us as. I think it's just one of those things ultimately where at the end of the day, what we continue to see is how we've been shut out of spaces that are supposed to be designated for our liberation. And what I'm happy about, and I went to bed with the biggest smile on my face, because trying to hide the very thing that came out is what happened last night. And I'm just glad that America knows, because the truth is that so many people like yourselves want to be better allies to the community. You understand a little bit more than most people, but the truth is that the reason why America doesn't understand why Black trans women are being murdered at exponential rates is because they see gay white men as the helm of the community, as the leaders. And so if we're looking at Ellen DeGeneres, if we're looking at Anderson Cooper, if we're looking at all of these people who are the 1% and they're a part of the societal upper crust, there's a huge disconnect between the very real grave threat that our lives are under.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat, emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.